David Brixton from the Jewish Agency. Tell me something. When we talk about Zionists some years ago, not so far, 70 years ago, it was like an idealist. You have to go, we have to build up a state. Later we have to defend that state. But now, we don't have to defend it. We don't have to build it. It's already running. So for what do we need Zionists, or for what do we need the relation Israel and the diaspora?
Okay, first of all, I think we do have to continue to worry about defending it. There are those who would like to wipe us off the map altogether.
Yes.
So the army, of course, and protecting Israel remains essential. But of course, particularly in terms of Zionism, I think we're really after something much different than that. I think really the focus of Zionism today is fashioning Israel as the kind of state we imagined it being. And it doesn't matter whether one was a political Zionist or a revisionist Zionist or a labor Zionist or a cultural Zionist. Everybody had this idea that Israel was supposed to become a special society, each in their own view, but really forging Israel as something very special.
But that's a political and a work of the people in Israel. Here in Mexico, I cannot change the society in Israel. I won't change it, being here in Mexico, or maybe. But now there is Israel, and it looks more than diaspora needs Israel, more than Israel needs diaspora, just to be in touch with it. But we cannot change that in Israel, just going there. But from here, I cannot do it.
Okay, certainly the most effective way to impact on Israeli society is to move there, and we welcome that, and we know that a good number of people from Mexico do come. But
I have a personal one.
But I would suggest that there really are ways of becoming involved in shaping Israeli society, even from the distance of Mexico. There are many, many different organizations here in Mexico City and in Mexico in general that allow people to be involved in different kinds of projects in Israel. You have a wonderful twinning project here, a partnership project between Mexico and the Eshkol region,
yes,
where there are exchanges of people and exchanges of ideas, and that's a real way to get involved. There's another way that you're involved that you're not even aware of that's really important. We send a good number of shlichim to Mexico.
Yes.
This year we've sent, or the last 2 years, we've also been sending some very young shlichim, shinshinim, who just graduated high school and come here.
The one in the sim audit's excellent, I can tell you that.
And
the other three more, they're also excellent.
And next year there'll be even more. And you may think that we're sending them in order to give something to the community. And that's the truth. But we've learned from our experience that the Judaism that Israeli shlichim are exposed to in the diaspora enriches them in a very real way. We often say that the shlichim, they go out as Israelis and they come back as Jews because they've been exposed to different ways of being Jewish. And when they come back and talk to their friends, when they go into the army or in the university studies, in the society that they live in, when they share the richness of Jewish life outside of Israel, the diversity of Jewish life, the different ways of being Jewish that they've experienced in Mexico, they are also impacting very much, in a very direct way, on the nature of the Jewish state that we're creating.
You know, Mexico is a different state or a different Jewish community from what we see in the United States and all over. We're very involved with Israel in many ways. We're involved in Mexico, but we're involved in Israel in many ways. But in the diaspora, it has been a separation from Israel and the Jews in many ways. We saw it in geographics. They don't see Israel like any other, like they see it like a country, more than a country that is there, but we live here, we live here. How do you see? It has to be the perspective we have to see Israel, like a place to be in case of a problem, the place for all Jews, the place to be in touch with, the place of our roots. How do you see Israel and the diaspora? How do we have to see it?
Okay, so the answer is all of those things. I would love to see more people moving to Israel, of course.
Yes.
There's no question about that. But I think that the more one becomes involved in what's going on in Israel, the more that one engages in thinking through issues that are taking place in Israel, the more one is enriched personally as well. Israel is about the Jewish people, Jewish peoplehood. What does it mean for me to be part of the Jewish people? We know Israel is created in the land of Israel, but what does the land of Israel mean to me? Why do I feel different planting a tree in Israel than I feel planting a tree in Mexico? What's my connection to the land? Why, when I pray, do I pray in the direction of Jerusalem? What do I mean when I say L'Shana Haba'ah b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, at the end of the Pesach Seder, or at the end of the Yom Kippur service?
That I want to make a trip. No.
Yeah, it might be that I want to make a trip. It might be, wow, one day, maybe when I retire, maybe when I finish high school, maybe when I finish university. I don't know. Aleph Bet Yehoshua, one of our prominent authors and public figures in Israel, has long said, if you don't mean it, don't say it. I'm telling you, I'm hearing you. For 2,000 years, you could say next year in Jerusalem and stay where you are. That's no longer the case. So he says, I don't care if you say it. I would like you to say it, but if you say it, I want you to mean it. I want you to be there. I don't say what Aleph Bet Yehoshua says, which is, if you don't mean it, don't say it. But I do say, don't say it without meaning. Think through for yourself what it means for you when you say next year in Jerusalem.
You say Jerusalem, you say to be there in Israel, you say many things about Israel, but one of the things that is more important now in Israel, it's politics. We have to talk about it, and it's important because we're going to have 3 elections in very short time, and with no definition. What will you say it's important, these elections, for the diaspora, and which party do you think it's the best? Here in diaspora we hear about Netanyahu because he's the prime minister. We hear about it. We hear about Benny Gantz that it's up against him. If we say what is the benefits of each of them, we say they are, let's say, enemies. We have about Tzipi, about, I don't know, many. What do you think it has to be the relation of the diaspora with the election, or it doesn't matter if we have to be with Israel? It doesn't matter who is in the prime minister.
Okay. First of all, it's a tough question for Israelis as well, which is why we're going to 3 elections. Israelis themselves, it's clear that we're a very divided society at this point. We're brought together by our fundamental belief in the necessity of having a Jewish state and the right of the Jewish people to have a Jewish state, but we have very diverse views of what that Jewish state should look like. And I think the importance in that for diaspora Jews is to realize that there is an entire range of views that are legitimate. And one can feel that their relationship to Israel is complicated without feeling that they're betraying Israel because they're critical. I was once asked to give a lecture, can one be a Zionist and critical of Israel? And my answer is, you can't, if you're not critical of Israel, you're not a Zionist.
Right.
Because Zionism is about forging this special kind of country. With all the pride that we have in what we've done, there's still a lot more to do. And each of us is critical in his or her own way about certain aspects of Israel. But each of us should have this vision, this dream of what we want to make of it.
But you didn't answer. Which party, or what do you think? What vision it has to be the one of the parties that are fighting to be the prime minister with the diaspora? What it has to be the message? I know that it doesn't care. They doesn't care. They care about the votes in Israel, but the money, the presence, it's important. We see Netanyahu, Bibi, that. So what it has getting in that? What do you think has to be the message? Both sides.
The message has to be that Israel is indeed the nation state of the entire Jewish people. Translating that message into action is the tough question. And one of the things that the Jewish Agency, which is now going through a whole process of reimagining itself, one of the 3 pillars that we've identified as the real task of the Jewish Agency is to be the voice of diaspora Jewry impacting on Israeli society. You're not there directly to do it.
Exactly.
We, as the Jewish Agency, we see ourselves as your voice. So part of my being in Mexico for me, in addition to any talks that I'm giving, is for me to get a sense of what the needs and concerns of Mexican Jewry is in regard to Israel. We're involved in the Jewish Agency in a whole range of projects in Israel, social activism projects. We have army service, year-long programs where we have young people. Some of them are together with diaspora Jews who come for 6 months or so and study together, live together, volunteer together with Israelis. So I'm not going to tell you which party I think is going to make the best connection with Jews of the diaspora. I think all of them agree that indeed it's the country of the entire Jewish people. And I think within the Jewish Agency, our role is to make sure that the government is indeed responsive to voices of Jews from abroad.
You talk about something very important, elections, but being the voice of the people in outside Israel. And now for that, it's coming an elections that it's also important. The Jewish Congress, Zionist Congress, that it's coming and it's going to be a part of. And Mexico can be part, and everybody in Mexico can be part. What is the importance of this Congress? Because many will say it doesn't impact, I know it impacts, and it's important to decide which people to go to Israel and make our voice be heard there.
Excellent. I'm really glad you brought that up. The importance of the Congress far outlasts the 3 days that the Congress takes place. The Congress determines the makeup of the executive, half of the executive of the Jewish Agency, the entire executive of the Keren Kayemet, of the Jewish National Fund in Israel, half of the directorate of Keren HaYesod, and the entire directorate of the World Zionist Organization.
Very important organizations in Mexico also.
Okay, and the combined budgets, annual budgets of those four institutions that I just mentioned, Keren Kayemet, Keren HaYesod, the Jewish Agency, and the WZO, are somewhere in the vicinity of $750 million a year. The Congress takes place every 5 years. So if you multiply that $750 million by 5, you realize that the makeup of the Zionist Congress is extremely important. The entire political and religious spectrum of world Jewry is represented in the Congress, and the balance of forces there is going to determine a huge amount of, have a huge influence on policy and projects that these institutions are going to implement over the next 5 years. The other important reason for registering and voting in the elections that are taking place here in Mexico for the Zionist Congress is it sends a message to us in Israel that Jews in the diaspora really care about about their relationship. And we're going to hear loud and clear what the numbers are of people who partake in this election, and it will certainly say something to us. We're confident, we know we have amazing support in this community, and the number of people who come in the SAB programs, long-term Israel programs who make Aliyah, the Hakshara program, the Ksharim. You have many, many different ways. The incredible fundraising that's done, both for Keren Kayemet and for Keren HaYesod, all of these things are greatly appreciated. But taking that extra step and registering for the elections and voting, it will also send a message to us.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you for being in Mexico, and thank you for all your explanations and learnings.
My pleasure, really. It's inspirational to be here.